Thank you, Michelle, for the nice hoodie.
Yeah, we can take it in from the top if you want.
Shall we? And take two.
Groundhog Day.
Okay, so Patrick, here's what happened. So I wanted to make sure we didn't have any audio problems in the future, so I removed that beta software and then forgot to put the default audio device. I did all kinds of tests. Okay. Patrick and I got our
Got the swag.
our Yeti Endurance Weekend half marathons medals.
Very proud of you boys.
Yeah, anyway, what we were saying before the audio fiasco was that traditionally it's ridiculously cold out there for some reason. It's like 18 degrees.
It's the reason why they call it the Yeti.
Yeah, but this weekend was perfectly awesome weather.
I was spoiled for my first half.
Yeah.
Like,
And weather-wise, you were very spoiled.
I'm like, I don't think it could get any better than that. So
Although there's a couple sections in the long view where it's just like this, and it's just this long, all you can see straight ahead of you uphill, and it's just, yeah. But the weather-wise, you guys were lucked out.
Yeah, so I know non-runners don't want to hear us drone on about this, but real quick, Patrick, because we never got to, you had to leave town to go on a business thing real quick after that, so we never got a chance to catch up. But so I had to pee. This is the first time on a half marathon ever that I had to pee, and I realized I was talking to Patrick. I'm like, I think because this is the first time I'm hydrated.
Yeah, you're not dehydrated for being
Yeah,
drunk and
that's,
hungover while you're running.
Yeah,
an alcoholic can relate to that. Like,
yeah. So at it's like 5 miles in, 6 miles. There was the second porta potty, so I stopped there. There was a girl in front of me, and there was a girl in front of her. The girl in front of her, I'm pretty sure she was dropping a deuce because she was in there for a long time. And so Patrick's strategy was, I said, you can wait with me or you can leave. So he said, I'm just gonna take off and I'll maybe slow the clip and I'll let you catch up. I was like, all right, sounds good. Fucking 7 minutes later, after all said and done, I'm like, all right, I gotta catch Patrick. If you do the math on 7 minutes catch up, it takes forever. So I crippled myself because that first mile, I was like, I gotta catch Patrick. I couldn't see you. And I was just like, I gotta catch up. Because I wanted to finish it with you, but I didn't want you to slow down. So I looked down after that mile that I got back into it, and my pace was 9:15. I was like, oh no. I have, so fast forward to mile 10. I was like, oh man. Struggle bus hit really hard.
But you still ended up with a PR, and you know I will also. You kind of put that bug in my brain right before we split. Was like, wow, you're like, we're about to do something I've never done before, catch a pacer, and that was like the last thing like entered into my head, and like literally like 15 seconds you were like, we're about to catch that pacer. I gotta go pee, and I was like, you left, and so. And I was happy the way I ran. All the all my splits were with, like, I've never run a race, anything like even around anywhere so consistent. Like my slowest mile was the 6 mile after, so like just trying to pull it back. I didn't pull back as much as I thought I did, so I apologize there. But I was feeling strong that day, so
yeah,
went on and
you crushed it.
You crushed it, man.
You guys did a great job. Both of you guys did a great job.
So that was a fun race.
It was. Thank you so much for running that with me. Okay, Michelle, can you hear some Spotify music going on? This wouldn't be a show if there was not a technical issue, so I'm good.
No.
Michelle will come back.
Are we supposed to hear it? Because I don't hear it either.
We are, so that's okay. I'll figure that out, but not a huge priority. Okay.
So we didn't even introduce ourselves, by the way.
Yeah, I know. All right, let's pull it back in. Good morning. My name is John.
I'm Judy.
And I'm Patrick.
And this is Sober Mind. Grown folk conversations is what we have here. Today's topic of discussion is going to be
harm reduction
in addiction. So pretty polarizing topic. It's
Wait,
gonna.
we didn't do gratitude.
We're getting ready.
Oh, sorry.
We're gonna jump
Sorry.
on it.
I'm jumping the gun.
But before that, we will discuss gratitude. I'm ready to go if unless anyone else wants to go.
I'll go. Although this morning I'm having a rough morning, so my gratitude is almost non-existent at this point. But I was thinking about this the other night while I was drifting off to sleep, and I am really grateful for this show, to be able to come on here with you guys and to be able to work through a lot of stuff that normally you would work through with a therapist, or you would work through with just any another person. But to be able to come on here and work through these things and talk to you guys and to get everything out and to talk about these topics and to learn more about things that people go through and to understand what a lot of people go through, specifically with harm reduction. I learned a lot just, researching this topic itself. But to be able to learn all these things and to grow as a person through this show has just been fantastic. And that's my gratitude. That's what I'm grateful for.
Yeah, last week, John, that was a pretty emotionally charged show, but
Yeah. His meatball pain.
looking through it, that was a pretty awesome process to go through, start to finish, and afterwards you talked about it wasn't like a light switch afterwards. You felt better, but being able to process that puts you on the path to working through it, right?
Yeah, I did work through a lot of stuff that day. And
Yeah,
then-
you felt better afterwards,
Yeah,
didn't you?
Sunday,
Yeah.
for race time, I felt like I was talking to a different person almost.
That's a good point, Patrick. I've been going through a lot of stuff. So is Judy. We all do. And the more and more, the longer and longer that we're sober, sorry for the pause. It's just, there's a lot to unpack there. It's because we always say that we need to have patience and grace with a lot of this stuff. But I don't know if we do that enough for each other. Judy and I had a discussion this morning about still reacting with old emotion on stuff. We talk about it a lot, but it's different talking about it versus putting it into practice.
Yeah.
I continue to be surprised. Okay. The growth that we have with sobriety is not just black and white. We always say, everyone's mileage will vary with this stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm still just a nubile, fresh little baby in the sobriety world.
You're still a seedling in your garden.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Michelle, by the way. It is Veterans Day. This is
Thank you
my
for your service.
Thank you.
This is my third sober Veterans Day, and it's a really big deal because
Congratulations.
traditionally I didn't need an excuse, but I would make an additional excuse on Veterans Day to get super hammered. It's traditionally a 3-day weekend, and I would always be like, yeah, I would sit and wallow in self-pity and think about shit that happened in the military and Kuwait and how I was, and it's a lot of living in old memories and resurrecting emotions that I never dealt with until I got sober. So this is my new holiday of waking up and feeling energized and not wallowing around in self-pity, but being happy for my strength and resilience and my own humanity and vulnerability and growth. So I got
Pretty
a lot.
awesome.
I got a long way to go on a lot of things. I think everyone that goes through recovery and sobriety does, but
Well, I think everybody who goes through, who is in the midst of their addiction is just trying to deal with all that self-loathing by medicating.
yeah.
So the way that you're able to attack that not really attack, but work on those issues that you had that you just masked with alcoholism, and you're able to work on them now sober, I think is fantastic.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Gratitude for me today is a variation of This Too Shall Pass. On the work, or I was out of town immediately after the half marathon. Like, I had a flight the next morning, and normally when I'm out of town, like idle hands are the devil's playground type of thing. Like, I was traveling, I would be notorious for, like, my favorite thing was after doing the work portion, I'd go to like a sweaty dive bar, or just to some place and belly up, and like, not most of the time I wouldn't be getting plastered, but that was the thing to do. Like, this was me, like, enjoying the culture of the wherever I was at.
Being an adult now.
Yeah, right. And so, I mean, because those could be often boredom moments, because you're out of your element, you're not in your home and in your routine, and you're just kind of like having to deal with new experience. So the best is just to I go to the bar where I know, like a bar's a bar is a bar type of thing. Mm-hmm. This Too Shall Pass for me is like every new opportunity, there's always new opportunities appearing. Like, whatever my mind state was, like, it doesn't matter if it was good or bad, there's a new opportunity to approach that, or something else. So, I got out and saw parts of the city that I wouldn't have done before, had I been drinking. I had a wonderful experience, and had a lot of mental clarity. Just had a wonderful top to bottom experience, because I just felt like I wasn't trying to plan anything or do anything or fit in a certain way. I was just like, okay, yes, this is, just
That's
open
cool.
to the experience. So
Yeah.
Was this the first time that you had to travel for business being sober?
no. I had a couple other travels, my, so it was weird enough, getting sober in the pandemic, and then traveling during the pandemic. And then, like, I was, the reason why I'm sharing this now is because, like, I feel like I had a very positive event, because the first couple times traveling when I was sober, I was like really angry and sitting and either just like in the hotel room afterwards, just be like, this is what I do. I go to work, I go to eat, I go to the hotel room, and I lather, rinse, repeat for a couple of days, right? And so that like really just like magnifies that corporate grind feel that you can feel that you get on, like, this is all I'm here for. Mm-hmm. So it was just, but those gave way to, like, I had to go through those a couple times to realize when I go out now, like, there's more than this too shall pass. There's a more than enough new opportunities that will always present itself for a different experience.
Yeah, those were interesting for me to navigate. They still are. Patrick, I'd be lying if I didn't say, it crossed my mind while you're gone. Like, I wonder if Patrick is going to struggle with this. Not a struggle, but we're alcoholics. It's always going to be a thing. Some people I ran into, they're like, it doesn't bother me. I drank for many years. I can go out and blah, blah, blah. Well, it's not, I get that. I can do that too, but you can't tell me you're not wildly conscious of the surroundings of alcohol around you and what's going on.
It's woven into travel. It's a weird phenomenon for us, because, like, I went to the airport. I was at 4 a.m. and I'm like, I just need a coffee. The coffee places are like just getting like started, but guess what's fucking open?
Oh, yeah,
Guess what's fucking open?
The bar.
The bar. Hey, you know, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. You know, like, and people getting lubed up to go on the airplanes. It's like, okay. And then like,
Well, it's woven into everything in our society.
yeah, you know, well, I mean, not to describe, I had gracious hosts, but you know, still like for me, I ended up going to Philly and got to see South Philly and some other areas, but you know, some of the people are like, well, you just want to, you can go grab some drinks somewhere. We can go to this place. They're famous for there. I'm like, there's tons of other things that Philly's famous for and food and stuff, you know, how about let's hit that up.
Historical sites.
You know, you
and
get to
stuff.
the hotel room and it's like, you know, the amenities. First thing they get you, like, you know, like, here's your hotel card, here's your drink voucher.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no thanks, I'm full on those. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, yeah, I used all my drink vouchers for life, so
I'm good.
I'm good.
I'm good. You got one for coffee?
Right?
Yeah, my last one was Patrick. You know our thing. It's a corporate culture too, and that is with these things. It's always, you know, such and such is in town. Let's go. We'll have happy hour, or you know, there's a team building. It's a happy hour. Team building in the corporate world is code word for let's get people lubricated enough to where we could see into them a little bit. That's what it is. That's why people get fired at Christmas parties.
Yep.
People get too hammered. But the last one was, I just wasn't feeling it. You know, I had to be very mindful of me. And so the last business trip was, they kept prodding and they're like, you know, it's important for you to be seen and blah. It's like, shut the fuck up. No, it is not. No, you know, my therapist even said, no one gives a shit about you, John. You can rest assured with that. And that's what I needed to hear. And so, you know, with this was to the point where I just said, you know, hey, I'm an alcoholic. I'm not going to a happy hour. And the looks I got was just like, oh my God. It was
All of a sudden, you're now labeled.
Yeah, but then one person in that group later on, Patrick, I'll tell you about the story later, but she's like, hey, I'm an alcoholic too. Don't tell anybody. I'm like, oh. She's like, yeah, I hate going to these things, but I have to do it. Yeah, see, why do we have to do these things?
Because we start shitting all over ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, expectations, carrying other, you know, we did that for so long in our lives, just bogging ourselves down, carrying other people's expectations.
It's so fucking trivial, though, to have to do that. And it was super liberating, but there was this, for me to be able to say that, too, but at the same time, there was this little air of like, ooh, shit, you should, man, don't tell people you're an alcoholic. You know, that's, whoa, man, that's too much for people to hear. You know, or I was talking to Judy, one of the guys that we listen to on harm reduction, he even says it, you know, sorry, a different guy, and that is drinking. So alcohol, it was Dr. Huberman. He says that it's the weirdest stigma and misconcepted use scenario, and that is, if someone asks like, hey, Patrick, do you want to go grab a drink? And you say, I don't drink. 99% of humanity will immediately go, oh, he's got a problem.
You do that with any,
Yeah.
this is the exercise on one of the podcasts early. If you just want to see how absurd the culture is around alcohol, in any of these conversations like this, substitute it with another hard drug.
Right.
Hey, John,
yeah.
you want to go do some heroin?
And I'm good.
Oh, you must have a problem with heroin.
Right. No one
one's
thinks
gonna
that.
say that.
But alcohol has become such I know it's cliche, it's such a fabric of society to where it's like, oh,
Yeah.
he doesn't drink or she doesn't drink. Oh, well, lati fucking da, or they must have a problem, or they think they're better than me, or they can't handle their liquor.
Yeah, there's always going to be some connotation of judgment attached to the reason why you don't drink.
Yeah.
No matter whether it's just your personal preference or not. There's always going to be that label that they're going to
But
put on you.
that always comes from ego too. Like that's a projection thing. Like, you know, oh, he must have a problem. And they're these most of the people that would press. So for the people that, or the normies or whatever, or the moderators, they don't have to think about that shit, right?
Right.
Oh, I don't drink. Okay. But for the other people who are like, oh, he's got a problem.
Yeah.
Like, those are usually the people that need some deeper introspection on themselves too.
Yeah, or the sort of the transverse of that, where I had another situation. The happy hour, this team building was at a bar, and it was just like, all right, I dragged my ass to it, and I told myself I'm going to hang out for a bit, and then I'm going to leave. Again, but why do we have to, even in the first place? About 45 minutes into it, there was people doing shots of tequila, and people were starting to drink heavily. And I wasn't uncomfortable by that. There was a little bit of, like, oh man, look at these people. They're going to be feeling that shit tomorrow. There was a little bit of me celebrating the fact that I wasn't part of that, very quietly. But I told the person, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna cut out of here. And they're like, you just got here. You can't leave. And they did this to me a lot for like a good 15 minutes while I went around and I told people goodbye. This person did it like 4 times. Again, now that I think about it, it's just so fucking absurd, to the point where now I got defensive and I pulled this person aside. I said, hey, I got to tell you something. I'm an alcoholic. Coming to this bar is really uncomfortable for me. It's not that I felt like I had to do this song and dance explanation. I said, the smell in here is fucking mind-bogglingly disgusting. It's gross. I can't take it anymore.
Yeah.
I'm leaving. And the person's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I felt like I'm going, what the fuck are you sorry for? What, that I'm here fucking spilling my guts to a 20-year-old, explaining myself? I shouldn't have to fucking do that. But you made me feel bad. You're fucking poking and prodding to the point now where then this was, old emotions. I'm like, I'm gonna fucking make you feel bad. And she's like, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have. I'm like, hey, what are you sorry for? That we're having this conversation? Fuck you.
You didn't say fuck you, did you?
I did not. That last part.
I said, bitch.
So Michelle says, progress, not perfection. You are all doing so well on your journey. Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah. Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah, I think that this actually ties in. Did you do your gratitude?
He did.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's actually ties into harm reduction.
Yeah.
Yep. He's bringing up the examples and the alcohol and everything. So go ahead and let's have a chit chat about harm reduction and some of the stigmas with this.
All right. Do you want me to do just the definition?
Yeah, because this is one of those ones that like I feel like I could catapult into and already get into the complexities of it. But the power of this one is just the simplicity of it up front, and to realize how absurd some of the things in our culture are around it.
So harm reduction is used to decrease negative consequences of recreational drug use and sexual activity without requiring abstinence. This is the Wikipedia definition, and I think this does describe it, but there's just so much more.
Yeah, they say recreational there, but in the TED Talk, the gentleman, if we'll put the link in afterwards, but there's an example.
Felicino
or some. Yep.
I gotta look at it now.
He uses several examples about harm reduction, and it's not just with recreational drug use. This is just a general item that in the healthcare community and health community in general that we do. Like, I have high blood pressure, right? So I take blood pressure medication to mitigate that risk.
That's harm reduction.
That's harm reduction, there and then this is done with like other ailments and items like that.
I take insulin because I'm a diabetic.
Yeah,
That's
like
harm reduction.
you do your blood sugar measurements, and like there's all sorts of like it's technologies into it now, so there's all sorts of apps and everything. And
I'm not diabetic, just to let you guys know.
so, I mean, that's a wonderful example. So I appreciate you bringing that up. So, I mean, this type of modeling is inherent in just about everything we do. And in fact, he had an even better one of when he talked about alcohol. Alcohol, an example of a harm reduction modeling approach would be this drug is administered in licensed areas. Right? So this is a bar, and it doesn't happen all the time, but this culture would be considered harm reduction. Like if you are over inebriated, it is within a bartender's rights to not serve you. And if it's a good bar or whatever, and they know you, maybe he's getting you water and coffee,
Or he's calling an Uber.
Yeah, he's calling an Uber. That whole scenario is a series of harm reduction. Right. He doesn't go, oh, you're wasted. You've made bad choices. Right. And this is on you. Right.
Why did you come in here and get drunk?
Right. He's just dealing with the situation as it is to reduce the amount of harm, like that's just general harm reduction.
Yeah. But that's a really good point. That was going to be my snarky comeback to all of this. Patrick, you stole my
Stole your thunder.
No, because that's the irony of it is, you see someone smoking crack on the side of the road or doing an illicit drug aside from alcohol. That's the whole discussion we're gonna have of why is it that we can do that. But you go to a bar, you lose control, you get drunk. Fuck that. By the way, I can't recall a bartender that I've seen act how they're supposed to in forever.
True.
I see Judy and I have frequented many bars. We could talk about if you ever noticed that when you served beer at establishments. We won't name them, but over serving is a thing.
I was fortunate enough that I didn't have too many people that got completely
to push that
inebriated.
limit.
Yeah, I didn't have very many people push that limit. Of course, I served craft beer, and I didn't really serve any hard alcohol, so that, but I mean, not that, that's much of a difference, but I didn't have anybody who actually got so inebriated that I had to take steps to call an Uber or deny service. But I was told by the owners that if that ever happens, to feel free to do that. And it's within my right to completely do that.
So let's talk. So now that we've talked about what harm reduction modeling is, let's talk about what this looks like in addictive communities and or other addictive substances.
Okay.
Namely, some of the harder drugs, meth, the fentanyl, the opiates, and stuff like that. This is where a ton of stigma comes in because they come with things like safe injection sites.
The harm reduction centers.
Harm reduction centers.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, these are sites. There's one in Vancouver, started and architected by, again, Gabor Mate and this and several others. And there's other institutions of these. I believe Portugal has some. And then
there's also a couple in the United States too.
Yep. But these are sites with physicians on site, and they would provide like clean needles for injection, stuff around the crack. They would have alcohol swabs, clean pieces, lip balm,
Narcan.
Basically a lot of the other items to help mitigate the secondary effects, because that helps reduce hepatitis,
AIDS.
All the transmittable diseases, fentanyl tests.
To test your drug to make sure there's no fentanyl in it.
Right.
Because now that's becoming an issue because apparently it's cool to
lace
all your drugs with fentanyl.
Yeah.
And then also there are also ties to institutions that will provide methadone and stuff like that. These are prescribed.
Suboxone?
That's the alcohol?
No, that's to
can tell
get
we're-
off of opiates.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
Suboxone.
you can tell we're not medical professionals here.
Yeah.
So take this with a grain of salt. The point is, there's a bunch of purified medical pharmaceuticals that are like administered by professionals to help deal with the
Repercussions of doing
yeah,
drugs.
like when you're addicted to a certain substance, it gives you allows you to mitigate the withdrawals and everything without giving you like some of the dangerous highs. It's just not out of control, but
Yeah.
it allows you to get to a safer place.
And also
Because your body does have a dependency on that.
yeah, it's a disease.
Yep.
It's treated. It is technically qualified as a disease, but it is not treated in our society as a disease. It's not treated like diabetes or hypertension or anything like that. It is treated as it is the person's responsibility or their fault because they're in the way that they're in.
Their moral deficiency. So everything else that surrounds their behavior becomes criminalized.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's amazing even with an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
Like how we can say that, alcohol being the exemption to the rule. I mean, look how much like the behavior around alcohol is not as criminalized as some of these other drugs,
Yes.
right?
It's more accepted, I guess.
But it also comes with the fact that if I can't handle that, that's a me problem.
Yes.
And that's true to a point, but it's also an altering drug that causes addictive behavior. So you have to use the disease modeling approach to it, because this isn't going to be something that you're just going to be able to fix by just taking away.
Yeah. And harm reduction, these centers that are out there are making it an easier and safer place for these people, because there was one of the statistics that I found was that 90% of the people who die from an overdose are alone. They're by themselves. And 60% of that are in private residences. So these people are alone and in a private residence. There's nobody around them to help them. There's nobody around them to even just grab their hand and say, you know what, I'm here for you. If you want to inject, fine. I will be here. I will watch you. I will make sure that you are safe and no harm will come to you. These people are completely alone, and they don't have that except for the harm reduction centers.
Yep. The stigma is that these centers would promote drug usage. And
Yeah.
the reality is, like you said, I know for the one in Vancouver, like after all the administration of that, there's never been an overdose.
No, there's never been a recorded overdose in any of the harm reduction centers anywhere.
Yeah. So the important part is this is not advertising the use of these things. It's not like I will go down to the center and be like, hey, I fucking want to get high. Give me your shit. Like I've never done this shit. Give it to me. And I want to become addicted. They're not peddling drugs by any means. What this does is, instead of like doing it in the shame in the corner with illicit activities, now you're able to not only do it in a safer environment, but you're opening up avenues for recovery. Physicians and the other counselors there are available that you can begin. We've talked about this even with like ADHD. Like sometimes knowing is half the battle, right? And like the more they become exposed to these centers and can get further educated on their addiction and how to build their small little toolkit and their coping mechanisms,
How to grow their garden.
It's not going to happen overnight, but they open up the avenue for recovery. The point of the harm reduction is the more you work on isolation tactics, creating quote unquote other. And for me, this is like just criminalizing it and criminalizing all the activity around it, so this is a very complex approach. But when you create the other, you automatically like look to dismiss, eject, or like, you know, I see an addict and they're completely written off, right? They're there by their own choices.
Yeah.
The police need to fucking pick them up and just deal away with them. Or, you know, even worse, you know, being in the Midwest, you know, where I'm not going to go down that road, but other conversations are, you know, if they're the dregs of society, then they don't need to be part of society type of approach.
Yeah, that's another one.
Right. That's the polarization of it, Patrick. And I'm with you. I don't, but I think the conversation just bears discussion. I grew up in, you know, inner city locations in California, Fresno, Sacramento, to where methadone clinics are a thing.
Yeah.
Methadone, for those of you that are not aware, traditionally, so opiate addicts have severe withdrawals, so doctors will prescribe methadone. It's a synthetic heroin, essentially, a very close relationship to morphine, and you would go in daily and get your tiny little shot. I watched my aunt do it for many years, back and forth between heroin and methadone, and oftentimes on both at the same time. She was a mess. But, you know, you go in and you get hi, my name's John, get your little shot glass of methadone. You go back the next day or whatever, and it's just a taper down.
Yep.
But that's a normal thing in a lot of these inner cities. So I don't know where I'm really going with this, except I just want to say that as you get towards areas that are not inner city, the problems aren't less. They're almost worse. You know, that's why you see like in areas like West Virginia, the prescribed opioid epidemic is hitting those areas harder than just about anywhere else. Annihilating them. Yep. And they don't have the resources or the wherewithal to even start to do these outreach processes.
Well, that's because they don't have the funding. There's nothing there. There's more funding. Okay, I'm going to go off on my tangent here for a minute. There's more funding going towards being allocated other ways and to other places than for mental health and for drug addiction. And
you're absolutely right, because we've talked about this in many areas. This is the gap in healthcare and, you know, addiction recovery is like medical help, you know, only went so far. And then on the other end, we used authority control or criminalization, law enforcement. And law enforcement, for better or worse, have just used their tools available. They're, you know, but when you are a hammer, everything is a nail. What I'm trying to say is law enforcement is designed to operate a certain way and approaching, and they're approaching the drug curtailment how they would. But let's be honest, and you know, Mate wrote extensively about this, how like the war on drugs has been one of the biggest failures of the American system whatsoever. Because not only did not only did it just perpetuate like all these wrong stereotypes and stigmas, but like because the US was a leader, a lot of the nations that were like moving towards other harm reduction modeling or other, you know, exploring their own avenues had to end up snapping in line to the direction of what the U.S. Just in general was going on, the law enforcement aspect of the drugs. So this is where I was beginning to say that this is a very complex conversation, meaning like, am I going to be here and saying like all drugs are legal? No. You know, making them available and, you know, controlled in certain areas is definitely part of it. I think there's areas in the Pacific Northwest that's having a problem with this because they decriminalized a lot of just having the smaller amounts. That is just a tiny portion of this. Like if you do that without any like investment into the mental health resources, safe injection sites, counseling, you know, addiction recovery stuff, like there is no incentive for the other. It just makes the drugs available, right?
Yeah,
so
we were talking about this earlier. They're symbiotic. Yeah,
yes.
They're symbiotic. If you don't have the one without the other, the funding the mental health, the funding the drug rehabilitation, the funding of these facilities and these people to do the back half of the whole process, then it's all gonna collapse. There's gonna be nothing there. It's just gonna, like you said, make the drugs available.
So on the converse side, if you have like safe injection sites and you have not decriminalized like small, just having small amounts of drugs on you, then you have instances where the police are just like showing up at these places like right outside the boundary, not making them a safe space, and just watching these spaces wither because nobody wants to go to them.
Or
because
locking the spaces closed.
Yeah, and they're like, look at it, it's failing. And it's like, yeah, of course it's failing because we're not making the avenue for people to get there very easy. The other point is like, so decriminalizing a lot of stuff, but like also shaping the laws so the ones that have worked a little bit more effectively are the ones going after the dealer type level and up. Like, so if you're in the distribution of it and manufacturing, of course, absolutely. Like, I am all on board on like going after the source on those. But for the people that are like using these for like the actual cooking, addicts themselves, right? They're the ones that like, if you just continue to focus on that part, I think it's going to exacerbate the situation. So,
yeah, I was another statistic that I got when I was doing the research was that 130 people, if not more, will die just today from opioids. Just today. And if 90% of those people are alone and 60% are in a private residence, that's a lot of people to die in just one day because there's no help out there for them. There's nobody there to say, you know what, why don't you come over here in this safe space, in this safe environment, and do what you need to do, and you won't be judged. And there's also this information for you if you're interested. If you know, let's give you some chapstick, or let's give you some help. Let's give you a hand instead of turning around and saying this is your fault. You got yourself into this. You need to get yourself out. Don't look to me for a hand up.
That's just gonna. We talked about this with some of this suicide prevention and stuff and the lack of gap. If the one instance that these people come out and ask for help or like trying to educate themselves and they're greeted with a closed fist, they're just going to withdraw further.
Right.
And the judgment that comes along with that just increases their shame.
Yes.
Just forces them into a corner to go do their stuff or into, a hidden space to go do what they need to do to help with their disease. It's just a vicious cycle that just keeps getting worse and worse.
It is. I can imagine how city council meetings go, something like this in our area, and that is, hey, what do you guys, should we start to do, community outreach for addicts around here? And be like, fuck you, Bill, man, we got farmer issues to deal with. Fuck them druggies.
I don't want them around.
I don't want them around. It's like, well, yeah, you probably got a bunch of
council. You open one of those things, there's just going to be nothing but drug addicts around here.
Yeah. And again, I think it's a population discussion that it's so far behind, yet advanced in other places. It's the polarization I was trying to get at. Same thing for alcoholism. How do you even start that discussion? There's I think at one point I wanted to talk to my primary care practitioner openly about it, but for some reason I thought there might be medical insurance implications somehow. I got paranoid, which is not a thing, but I can imagine, because it's a health and wellness thing now that you're talking about. It's like, well, you didn't disclose this in your insurance, you right? Fucking drunk. So I don't, that's a tough one to start the conversation with too, because alcohol, out of all the drugs, we know that alcohol is one of the most deadliest to withdraw from.
I think you're bringing up a good point around the core of the stigma of like harm reduction, and we talked about this with alcohol. Like, you think that the stigma is that the person is morally deficient or they've done something to deserve it,
right?
Or it's their, this is really hard to tease apart because I'm not absolving, addicts of their behavior by any means. Like doesn't mean like, hey, we're gonna go when the clinic opens up or whatever, and if you're there and like all the druggies like start like stealing stuff and whatever, it doesn't mean that I'm sitting there going like, okay, yeah, this is fine.
Yeah.
That is not what I'm trying to say here. What I'm trying to say is like, when we have to like understand that this is a disease, right, that affects our behavior, and trying to approach it in a safe environment. Meaning AA does this too, like they're very open to people like looking to the path towards recovery. But there's a big thing. You can't show up wasted, right? They will help find avenues like, hey, let's get to this point and then we can engage here. Same with the harm reduction areas. They
have a support system.
Yes. And to your point, John, with the alcohol, talking about that with a primary care provider is like, there's two items here. One is Mate talked about like a lot of medical professionals really don't have trauma like dealing with trauma in there, like that you come to them, I have a broken arm, and you fix the broken arm, right? Like alcohol addiction, these addiction stuff are tied to like deeper mental issues. So that is one. And then the other is going to be around like just the pure stigma of like being a person problem. Like and I'm not trying to say like my genes make me drink more. I'm talking like you just made some really shitty decisions, and this is all on you. This is a you, like as in like you have consciously chosen this path of destruction. And that is like kind of the stigma to like try and overcome, is like, yes, I have made this is a really tough conversation. I understand that it can be confusing at points, but my behavior has brought me to these points, but like the repetition of it and everything is part of the mental health, like trying to uncover like the driving factors of that, getting the toolkits.
Yeah. The pain that's underneath it.
Right.
All of the trauma and pain or whatever that person went through to get to that point, to reach out and grab that beer or drink or shot or whatever it is. And the whole time that they're bringing it towards their body, they're going, I know this isn't good for me. I know this isn't good for me, but they can't deal with all of the stuff that is going on inside of them. So they need that. That's the only tool that they have to cover up and bury that stuff. And so that's what they do.
The barrier to have those discussions is pretty high. Michelle's husband, Guy, I'd like to get his opinion on this when we can have the chance to have a huge discussion. But we've been heavy drinkers. He was an extremely heavy drinker. And when we had just some topical conversations a couple of years ago about this stuff, it was, well, I'll speak for myself, and he's sort of got the same veil of confusion in the beginning, and that is, imagine, okay, our journey was, Judy and I never really talked about it with each other because that's a whole, frightening conversation to have. But
yeah.
I wish there was times when I woke up with those severe hangovers and despair and all of that, and I could just go, oh shit, I need to call my doctor. I need to stop this nonsense. Mm-hmm. I need to detox. Probably get some Valium going to so I don't have a fucking seizure.
Yeah, gets a nutrient. Maybe he can recommend some B supplements and some other items to put me on the path.
But I don't think that's a thing. I don't know. I feel
you automatically feel like, there's such a feeling of shame and judgment that goes along with it, that is just part of the stigma of being an alcoholic or being on drugs or being an addict. It's for me, it's that feeling of being judged, the feeling of shame that made me not want to bring it up. It's that fear.
No, and there's a whole, well, we're having this discussion. I'm just sitting here realizing, like, if I had someone come to me and go, John, I drink a lot. If I quit, I have seizures. What should I do? And I'd be like, I'm saying it right now. Fuck, I don't know. I think you need to go to the ER. But then I don't know if they're going to tell your workplace about it or what happens then. You know what I mean? So it just, I don't even know what the fucking process is here.
Yeah.
We just had to white knuckle it, and we went, I had a little bit of physical issues and then mental stuff, but
I forget what it is around the scientific revolution that came out and modern thought of, medicine practice as, I'm going to butcher it, but it's a line of thought of like, a doctor is basically, the body exists in a physical element, meaning like the doctor is like a mechanic, right? Mm-hmm. The valve cover gasket is blown, so just get a new valve cover gasket. The heart, there's something wrong with the heart, replace the heart. If you get a pacemaker or something, your arm is broken, you break, and then you do what you can to fix the arm. These ailments that begin in the mental capacity or this weird space to try and begin to approach, because if you're looking at it from that type of fix the valve gasket approach, you're dealing with issues because you drink, so ergo you shouldn't drink, right? That's where this whole thing begins, right? Like, if the problem is just drinking, just don't drink.
Just say no.
Exactly, right? And so it's just predicated on just this physical model approach. Like this is it. Like it's in a vacuum, right? Yeah. Like, I'm going to replace the part. You're a car, it's going to run bad on ethanol. So just don't put ethanol in your car. And it is not like that. And that's, we're beginning to understand a lot more of these items in the mind. Mm-hmm. And that affect,
and unfortunately, it's not black and white.
Yeah, it goes both ways too. We talked about many relationships of the mind affecting the body and body affecting the mind. So
another symbiotic relationship.
Absolutely, one that can't be broken for the most part. And
unless you chop your head off.
Right. So the problem with like being able, the problem is, you go to the doctor and they're like, hey doc, I got a drinking problem. Even if the doc would be like, don't drink, what other tools is he going to look at? It's going to be like, it's going to be focused around not allowing that into your body, mm-hmm. right?
The physical aspect
of it. Mm-hmm. Like, if he could prescribe something, they do have that, and that they what is the oh man, it just escaped my mind. The drug that you can take where you have adverse reactions if you imbibe alcohol.
Yeah. I took it for Antabuse.
Yeah, like you're just like, yeah, take it and just wean yourself off of it, and it'll be fine. And they don't even discuss like some of the other items, like, maybe getting to the root cause of this.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Might have better effects in the long run rather than just stopping the physical symptoms. The problems start well before the physical actions begin, mm-hmm. right? The problem isn't putting the ethanol in the car. It's like, what is even leading up to the driving motivation for that to even begin with?
Yeah.
Yeah. But they're not, I don't think that they have, unless they're, a doctor of psychology, they don't have that stuff in their wheelhouse.
So this is a break in medical support and services, right? Mm-hmm. When we say a doctor, we've talked about all the physical aspects that we've talked about, right? And this is where I'd be interested to see in like the nutritionist community, like how they approach this, because for the people that need nutritionists or seek out help from nutritionists, it's kind of a very similar thought, right? Like, if if you want to provide your body supplements, then you eat X, Y, and Z, and you do this, and then you do that. But the motivating factors for putting stuff in your mouth for a lot of people are not just like, I'm not a car. I'm not going to go like, all right, this is the dietary things. Like a lot of people eat off of either intuition or what's available. And that's very emotionally driven. Right.
Yes.
So at some point, I'm assuming with some high level nutritionists that they either collab or work with other people that kind of deal with psychological issues.
Well, yeah,
to uncover that.
You also have the concept of people who are going to see nutritionists have a better self-worth than people who are not going to see nutritionists are usually people who really don't have a very high self-worth. I mean, they're not one to actually take care of themselves on a regular basis. If you're going to a nutritionist, you're really wanting to take care of yourself on a regular basis. Hence, you're going to the nutritionist.
And you can afford it.
Yep.
Yes.
That's the stigma there too,
Well, I don't know. There's a nutritionist that sits at our grocery store, Hy-Vee, that you can go in and just chat with. But I don't know if it's insurance based or not.
Yeah, but I think that's the other. Sorry, I didn't mean to sound dismissive. I was going down the other train of thought, and that is if you can afford to have access to a private physician or psychiatry or psychology on demand, these things have a lower barrier of entrance.
Yep. We talk about modalities of learning, if I'm dealing with eating issues, nutritionists, psychologists, all the kit and caboodle. For me, and for alcohol, getting with a coach and or counselors and other access to things. This is another aspect of harm reduction modeling that is very important, is like opening access to these people for there's a very real, there's some people that just don't know this, and they've all they've known, maybe from a young set of life is like just getting addicted and just dealing with the drug, and that, they didn't have anybody to say like, oh, in the mornings I'm dealing with this and this feeling. And, they didn't have like a counselor or anybody to talk them through. You talked about that when, dealing with a hangover and stuff like that, right? There was just no access to finding any modality for a path of recovery. So basically the criminal aspect is just saying, your only option is don't do it, or don't be part of society,
or don't get caught.
Yeah.
There was one of the guys that I watched on it was a TED Talk, and he was talking about harm reduction, and he was talking about his own experience, and he was actually sent to prison for a year because he had a needle in his pocket. He had no drugs on him. He was a young man, and he got pulled over. I don't know if he was in a car or somehow the police got him and searched him, and they found one needle in his pocket, and he went to prison for a year.
Yeah. So
it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, where he's again exposed to either more trauma or more means, more further criminalization of the behavior. And rather than, approaching the
rather
issue
than addressing the issue, they just threw him in jail.
So, what's the solution?
Well, okay, so if you look at Portugal, who have decriminalized everything, right? They took a lot of those funds and put it into harm reduction centers, into recovery paths, into mental health, and their rate of overdose has dropped 50%.
Yeah, they also have one of the highest recovery rates in the entire world too.
So there's facts out there that shows that this stuff works.
Yeah.
Facts.
Yeah, there's Mate said it too. There's a Dr. Gabor Mate, one of our idols. He's an awesome dude. Anyway, he said somewhere too that the statistics are pretty staggering, and that is if they legalized heroin right here where we live tomorrow, none of us are going to go, you guys think we should go do heroin?
Yeah, let's go do some heroin.
You know what I mean? Those stats are or crack or whatever. Like we just wouldn't.
Yep.
If we wanted to, we'd already be doing it. That's the rationale too around the legalization.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
So, I mean, if I'm going to summarize here, I think just further education, if you have not heard of harm reduction modeling, like Judy said, like I think that's the largest thing that's staggering to me is that the success rate and the facts of this applied correctly is just outstanding. Like it is, it just basically speaks for itself. You know, so coming with an open mind and just trying to understand, taking apart what harm reduction modeling is, seeing where we would apply it on the daily basis, and realizing that we're doing the complete inverse to some of these others and just straight criminalizing it because we don't want to deal. We just don't want to deal with the power of this addiction. You know, I talked about earlier before the show that, you know, I believe Ohio was going through a fentanyl, like a higher than normal fentanyl epidemic. And I was dealing with like a large amount of laced stuff that was causing a large amount of overdoses. So they were like putting up pop-up clean needle distribution events in some of the areas and then also testing stuff. And that was politically targeted by the then governor running for the president of the United States. And it was, look, I get you're going to have some back and forth, but it was painted with such propaganda that it was like infuriating to me because it you know, we have to assume best intent. You know, these people see, like, people are literally dying from this stuff, and we can't. I sometimes wish that, you know, in certain mindsets, I could rub that genie bottle and say, I wish it was all gone. You know, just, you know, all that stuff would just go away, but it doesn't. So you have to learn to mitigate it safely in other areas. And this is part of it. This is not the stuff when we say like the clean needles, safe injection sites. The stigma is this is not me giving like a thumbs up to doing the heroin. You know, it's like heroin, this heroin's now illegal. This is not me going like, all right, let's go party. You know, this is not that, and that's the stigma that I want to like try and approach. Like, you can walk and chew gum at the same time, like by supporting, you know, some of these items with the, you know, the testing kits and the clean needle sites is not saying you are for drugs, right? Period.
Yeah.
Like, that is just some old ass bullshit, you know, you put through the DARE program, and, you know, like,
may Nancy Reagan rest in peace.
This is not some black and white bullshit like that.
It's not. Mental health is not black and white. It is a myriad of gray areas.
Yeah, and guess what? When it comes to these policies, you know what you can do as a human being? You're allowed to have two different thoughts on the subject too. You don't have to be fucking 100%
right.
Plus or minus. It's my filter going off over there.
Yeah.
But okay, we're at the hour. Man, this is a lot. Patrick, did we cover the grand majority of what you wanted to discuss with this?
Yeah, you know, this is
we did. I would like to encourage people to talk about harm reduction with other people, because there's a lot of people who are out there who have never even heard about harm reduction. I was talking to my dad. Talking to Dad yesterday, and I was talking to him about harm reduction. He goes, I've never heard of it. So I think we need to make it more public, make it more, put it out there so that people, you know that there's that it's out there.
Just understanding of the concept is important. I feel like I missed my cue on this talk compared to I have a lot of others, because it was just so it's a very complex topic, and it's confusing to me, only in the fact that, like, the approach, we mentioned this before, like, we use harm reduction in like a lot of aspects of our life, yet we apply the inverse to some of these, and like that is like world changing for some people, like, to show them like, well, why do you think about that oppositely when it comes to these these drugs, and it's just like we've been taught for so long.
Yeah, that's another thing that we've been taught since we were young, that junkies it's their choice. They put themselves there. It's that homeless person. It's their problem. They're not working hard enough. We've been taught.
While you're drinking your box of wine.
Yeah, while you're in your suburban house drinking your box of wine. Yeah, it's been there.
Sorry, Patrick, I think I interrupted you. When you brought this up, and Judy was doing a lot of research, I watched a couple of videos, but it's just important to have these conversations.
Yes.
Because I was like, I don't know what this, sometimes I feel like I have to go into this with a cape on. Like, I don't even know how to start to fix this stuff, but it's what we're here for, is just to open up these conversations and start to talk about it.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest takeaway here. Like I said, take a look at some other, harm reduction modeling, what it is, some other examples. We've mentioned Dr. Gabor Mate and then a few of the TED Talks. There's plenty out there to see what's going on in space. So I invite others to, just take a look. This is the item that we've talked about that fills in that gap between, where does health services begin, where mental services, and how we can begin to approach this middle ground, increasing the amount of tools to deal with the effects of addiction, right? This is where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess as we start to wrap it up, I'll leave you with the one thing I had experience with, and that is heavy drinking. There was times when I would go take a shower. That's where it happened a lot, where I'd have those micro seizures. Coming off of alcohol is heavy duty shit. So if you're in that boat, I encourage you to go talk to your doctor. I don't know what that looks like really, but just have that conversation of, hey, I need to get off alcohol.
I think there might be some help if they were to reach out to like AA or Al-Anon, that they might know of avenues that they could go through to help guide them.
Yeah,
for sure.
DTs ain't no joke.
No.
So,
yep, it can kill you. It has killed people. Alcohol.
We're all about, and that's the thing. We're all about sobriety here. But full transparency, that path looks different for everybody. That doesn't mean I'm drunk and then I just put it down and I'm good. In fact, doing so immediately for a lot of people that are addicted out to alcohol is very dangerous.
Yeah.
So by applying, here's the deal, and this is the prime example of the stigma that we want to break. Being able to provide that person either like a tapered amount, if I were to give that person some vodka or whatever in a controlled manner, or in an area that doesn't mean I'm saying like he's an alcoholic, I'm feeding his alcohol addiction. Like this is part of what the path looks like to tapering and beginning the path to recovery from the addiction.
Yeah. Show some compassion and humanity.
Yeah, compassion
for your fellow man and human being and friend.
Guaranteed, they did not choose to be in this situation.
It's given me a lot to think about. I do cruise around this earth. I know I seem like I'm perfect. I kid. I do walk around this earth with judgment, and I really try to not do that. I've been very cognizant of that in the last few years, especially since I started my sobriety journey. So I don't know the solution to a lot of things, but I would encourage folks to try to look at everything with a different set of eyes, and instead of jumping so fast on the holier than thou train, maybe ask what you can do to help someone.
Be curious, not judgmental.
That's right.
Yes.
Don't be a dick either. All right, Michelle, I think you and Dad are the only ones that joined today.
That's okay.
Yeah, I apologize, you guys. I'm sorry for the audio issues.
No worries. Bruce.
I
Like you said, it wouldn't be our show if we didn't have at least some technical issue.
know, with the best of intentions, I was like, I'm going to eliminate all this audio shit. I'm going to go back to the other non-beta firmware, and then there's a lot of things to test, you guys. It's a whole thing. Anyway, thank you so much for joining. Thanks for the support. We got 516 subscribers.
Nice.
We're
Keep
gonna-
on keeping out.
Yep, we're
And
only
for those of you who are listening to a podcast, if you can go into YouTube and hit that subscribe button, we would really appreciate it.
yeah, it helps us out. YouTube.com/@sobermind. All right, I think so. I was asking Judy this morning, what's our queued up topic? I keep failing at this.
I was supposed to pick dinner, and you were going to pick the topic.
Touche. All right, how about this? I would like to talk about the barrier or the challenge of entering psychological and psychiatric and mental health help, and how that process starts and what it looks like. Because I know that's for me, when I started, that was kind of oh shit, where do I begin? It's not that difficult, but I think we need to lay it out a little bit for folks to follow. So
Give some different avenues for them to go to.
how to seek mental health. Is that fair for
Mental health help.
how to seek how to seek mental health through how to seek mental health through help and and finding mental health help.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Until next weekend. Thanks for the support, and we'll see you later. Where the hell is Odie?